Hello and welcome to this Thursday edition of the World Report. I'm Arjun Samar Mahendran, and here's what's making headlines around the world. US President Donald Trump has said there will be very severe consequences if Russian President Vladimir Putin does not agree to stop the Ukraine war after Friday's summit. Now, Trump was very clear in a virtual meeting on Wednesday with European leaders that the US wants to, in fact, achieve a ceasefire at the upcoming US-Russia summit in Alaska on Friday. Meanwhile, French President Emmanuel Macron has also underlined that if Putin does not work towards a ceasefire, there'll be severe consequences. Now, in the same meeting, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said he told the group that Putin is quote-unquote bluffing ahead of the planned meeting with Trump. My colleague Maha Siddiqui, meanwhile, brings you more from Anchorage. But first, we get you some reactions.
Will Russia face any consequences if Vladimir Putin does not agree to stop the war after your meeting on Friday?
Yes, they will. Yeah.
What will the consequences
there will be
be?
consequences.
Sanctions, tariffs?
There will be, I don't have to say, there will be very severe consequences.
Звісно, ми обговорили сьогодні ситуацію на полі бою. Я сказав президенту Сполучених Штатів Америки і всім нашим європейським колегам, Путін блефує. Він старається натиснути перед зустрічю на Алясці, на всіх напрямках українського фронту. Росія намагається зобразити, що спроможна окупувати всю Україну. Безумовно, це їх бажання. Також Путін блефує, начебто санкції для нього не важливі і що вони не працюють. Насправді санкції дуже допомагають і б'ють по російській воєнній економіці.
Мы рассматриваем выпрашиваемые европейцами консультации как политические и практически ничтожное действие. Европейцы на словах поддерживают дипломатические усилия Вашингтона и Москвы по урегулированию кризиса вокруг Украины. Фактически же Евросоюз их саботирует.
L'échange avec le président Trump a permis d'éclairer ses intentions pour la réunion du 15 août prochain et nous a permis d'exprimer très clairement nos attentes et je tiens ici à l'en remercier. Et je crois pouvoir dire que plusieurs messages sont ressortis de l'échange que nous venons d'avoir et qui sont à mes yeux très importants. Le premier, c'est que le président Trump a été très clair sur le fait que la volonté américaine était d'obtenir un cessez-le-feu à l'occasion de cette réunion en Alaska. Et c'est très important qu'à l'occasion en effet de cette réunion, il puisse y avoir un cessez-le-feu qui soit obtenu par les États-Unis d'Amérique, et nous soutenons cette initiative, en même temps que de nouveaux échanges de prisonniers et des libérations d'enfants.
I'm standing right outside the joint base, Elmendorf-Richardson, that is going to be the venue for the high-stakes meeting between US President Donald Trump and Russian President Vladimir Putin. The two leaders will be meeting here on Friday. An area of over 85,000 acres. This base is strategically important for the United States, keeping a watch over the Arctic region as well as the Pacific Ocean, both of which are resource-rich and strategically important for the US. And that is why there are some who believe that the optics perhaps could be all wrong in choosing the venue. They believe that having the president of a rival nation, Russia, on a critically important US base may perhaps not have been the best idea. However, the short notice in which Alaska was declared as the venue for the meeting, many believe that this was the only venue in Alaska and Anchorage that could have provided the sanitized, safe, security-wise space for the two leaders to sit down and discuss a very critical issue that will have global ramifications, that of the possibility of ending the war in Ukraine. In Anchorage, in Alaska, this is Maha Siddiqui for NDTV.
Ukrainians in Kyiv are voicing skepticism that the planned summit between US President Donald Trump and Russian counterpart Vladimir Putin will bring the war in Ukraine to an end. Now, Trump has threatened very severe consequences, as we just mentioned, if Putin does not agree to stop his war in Ukraine at the summit to be held in Alaska on Friday, even though he did not say what those consequences might be. Meanwhile, Kyiv residents weren't optimistic of a breakthrough. Here's more.
навряд чи щось глобально вирішиться буквально в ці дні, моя думка, тому що ми вже бачили неодноразово, як перемовини переносилися, зривалися, ще щось змінювалося. І, на жаль, найважливіше зараз звертати увагу все-таки на фронт і те, що відбувається там, а не на перемовини. І я би радила більше звертати, наскільки я би могла це робити з точки зору своїх загалом там якихось знань, я би радила просто більше звертати увагу на голос військових.
We shift our focus to Western Europe, where Italy's government received 114 Palestinian evacuees from Gaza on Wednesday night. This includes 31 children in need of dire medical assistance. The young patients are all affected either by severe injuries or amputations or serious congenital diseases. The Italian Air Force, meanwhile, flew the evacuees over in 3 C-130 cargo airplanes from the southern city of Eilat in Israel. One of the planes carrying 6 patients and 22 of their relatives landed at Rome's military airport. The other landed in Pisa and Milan, carrying 12 and 13 young patients respectively. The Palestinians were then transferred by ambulances to various hospitals. Italy has carried out 14 medical evacuations since January 2024. Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi will visit India next week on the 18th of August to hold bilateral talks with National Security Advisor Ajit Doval. The visit will take place shortly before PM Modi visits China. It's his first trip since clashes 5 years ago, which led to heightened military tension on the border. He's there for the Shanghai Cooperation Organization Summit's meet. Meanwhile, Yi will visit India. It will also take place against the backdrop of US President Trump hitting both Beijing and Delhi with massive tariffs. Now, Trump has slapped a 50% tariff on India, including a 25% penalty for the purchase of Russian weapons and oil. India's Atomic Energy Regulatory Board, or the AERB, said it held a bilateral technical meeting with the US Nuclear Regulatory Commission to strengthen cooperation on nuclear safety and regulation as India looks to expand its nuclear power capacity. An Indian delegation participated in the meeting held between the 6th and the 8th of August at the NRC headquarters in Maryland's Rockville. The AERB said in a statement dated the 12th of August. The UK, France and Germany wrote on the United Nations on Tuesday, saying that they are ready to reimpose sanctions on Iran. Now this, if a diplomatic solution to handle the country's nuclear program is not reached before the end of August this year. Now the group, also known as the E3 or the European Three, said if Iran is not willing to reach a diplomatic solution before the end of August or seize the opportunity of an extension, a so-called snapback mechanism will in fact be triggered. Over in Latin America, the Brazilian government on Wednesday unveiled a plan to support local exporters affected by a 50% tariff imposed by US President Donald Trump on several products, mind you, from the South American nation. Dubbed Sovereign Brazil, the plan provides for a credit lifeline of 30 billion reais, or almost $5.5 billion, among other measures. Brazil's President Lula Inácio da Silva described the plan, which also includes a bill to be sent to the Congress as a first step to help local exporters. Across the northern border, residents in one Washington, D.C. neighborhood lined up Wednesday to protest the increased police presence after White House said the number of National Guard troops in the nation's capital would ramp up and federal officers would also patrol the streets around the clock. Now, after law enforcement set up a vehicle checkpoint along the busy 14th Street Northwest corridor, hecklers shouted "Go home, fascists," and other insults. Some protesters stood at the intersection right before the checkpoint and urged drivers to turn away from it as well. The action intensified a few days after President Donald Trump's unprecedented announcement that his administration would take over the city's police department for at least a month. We get you more.
Right now, trying to get people to turn left and not go down 14th Street. There's a random search right now. They've pulled over about 6 cars. We've seen 2 people get detained, one by ICE, one by the police, taken, no rhyme or reason.
And I just want to tell people at this point that it's not been confirmed. Continue.
That is what it seems like. So we're trying to get people to turn left so that nobody drives down this street and doesn't have to be wrongfully arrested.
The US national debt had surged to a record $37 trillion, surpassing pre-pandemic projections by several years. Now, the Congressional Budget Office initially anticipated this milestone after fiscal year 2030. However, to their dismay, and much to their dismay, the economic fallout from the COVID-19 pandemic and substantial borrowing by both the Trump and the Biden administrations to stabilize the economy has accelerated the debt's growth. Over in Europe, Greece continues facing its hardest days yet of this year's wildfire season. A senior firefighting official has told Western media officials. Now, this statement comes after dozens of new blazes erupted in a single day, mind you, and extreme weather hampers extinguishing efforts. Strong winds, prolonged dryness, and intense heat have worsened conditions across much of the mainland and also on the islands, forcing evacuations and dramatic rescue operations in recent days in turn. Elsewhere in Europe, heat alerts were issued in Italy, France, Spain, Portugal, and on the Balkans on Tuesday as well, with temperatures expected to soar well above 40 degrees Celsius in some regions. Shift our focus to Southeast Asia, where Hong Kong's central business district and outer airport were hit by violent gusts and a deluge of heavy rainfall, with the city again issuing its highest rain warning as tropical storm Podul passed the region. Parts of Hong Kong have received as much as 400 millimeters of rain since midnight alone, with flights disrupted and schools shut for the entire day. A black rain warning was issued for the fifth time, breaking a record that was set earlier this month itself after the city was swamped by a prolonged deluge. No major injuries, however, have been reported so far. Clashes erupted between Serbian anti-government protesters and supporters for a second day in Wednesday in a major escalation, as you see right there on your screen, after more than 9 months of persistent demonstrations against autocratic President Alexander Vučić. The president's supporters repeatedly hurled flares at protesters in the northern city of Novi Sad, near the office of Vučić's ruling Serbian Progressive Party. Protesters then smashed office windows as riot police were deployed outside to guard the building. Air India will begin a gradual suspension of flights to allow an orderly shutdown of the country's largest airline as it faces a potential work stoppage by its flight attendants on Saturday. The airline said that the first flights will be cancelled Thursday, with more on Friday, and a complete cessation of flying by Air Canada and Air Canada Rouge by the weekend. The union, representing around 10,000 Air Canada flight attendants, has issued a 72-hour strike notice. This was done back on Wednesday. Now, in response, the airline issued a lookout notice. With that, it's time we step into a short break. Much more lined up on the other side. Don't you go anywhere. Welcome back. You're watching The World Report. I'm Arjun Samar Mahendran, and we move on to the world of business, where the US tariffs are unlikely to have an impact on India's growth, as the country is not a very trade-oriented economy to begin with. Now, this is according to the Sovereign and International Public Finance Ratings team at the global ratings agency S&P. Given the exposure of Indian exports to the US as a percentage of the GDP and the exemptions also to products such as pharmaceuticals and consumer electronics. My colleague Sakshi Bajaj gets you more.
Global rating agency S&P Global Ratings bets on India. S&P Global Ratings has said US tariffs won't impact India's growth. They've also said they maintain a positive outlook on India. Now, why exactly are they betting on India? Well, they say India is not a very trade-oriented economy. The exposure of Indian exports to the US is just about 1 to 2% of India's GDP, and the credit impact is not negative as previously feared. They also believe that, look, domestic developments have kept trends stable or positive largely. Remember, they do believe that, look, largely things and the fundamentals really remain positive. Remember, in May, S&P Global Ratings has revised India's outlook to positive. And now they say that in August, remember, we've just heard in this month, US President Donald Trump revised the tariff rate and imposed that additional 25% tariff rate on India.
Bitcoin has hit another record high on Thursday during early Asian trading, surpassing $124,000. Now, this was driven by favorable US legislation and also a rise in US equities. The cryptocurrency rose above its previous July record, briefly exceeding $124,500 before eventually retreating. Canada is all set to add 3 new occupational categories to expand its express entry immigration system in 2026. Now, the new occupational categories would be senior managers, scientists and researchers, and military personnel. The addition comes amid an announcement by Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship Canada, or the IRCC, to streamline permanent residence applications for foreign nationals in those fields. Now, this is according to a report by CIC News. In the world of sports, Venus Williams will make her return to the Grand Slam tennis at the US Open after a 2-year hiatus, or absent in this case, receiving a wildcard invitation on Wednesday to compete in singles at Flushing Meadows at age 45. The American will be the oldest entrant in the singles at the tournament since Renee Richards was 47 back in 1981. This is according to the International Tennis Federations. Now, Williams already had been given a wildcard entry by the US Tennis Association for next week's mixed doubles competition. Singles matches, meanwhile, begin in New York on the 24th of August. It's a beach run, a coastal row and a music party rolled into one, and it's about to become an Olympic event. On a sunny Southern California morning, nearly 24 athletes cared to try their hand at beach sprints at a camp run by US Rowing in Long Beach. It's not far away from where the inaugural Olympic races will be held in 2028. Many were long-time flatwater rowers who wanted to take a shot at something new. Others were already hooked on to the quick-paced and unpredictable race format and have been training with an eye, in fact, on LA 28. Listen in.
We're here trying to get more exposure to this new sport, which is beach cranes, that is going to be in the Olympics in LA, which is extremely excited.
Beyonce now has an Emmy to go with her 35 Grammy Awards. The singer was listed as one of a half dozen people on a team that won outstanding costumes for a variety, non-fiction or reality show for Beyonce Bowl, a Western-themed halftime show on Netflix, a Christmas NFL game between the Baltimore Ravens and the Houston Texans. The show in her hometown of Houston brought the live debut of songs from her Cowboy Carter album. This special Emmy is Beyonce's first, by the way, mind you. She has been nominated for 10 others without a victory till now, and it takes her halfway to an EGOT with the 35 Grammys. She still needs a Tony and an Oscar to complete the quartet. John Cena, James Gunn and Danielle Brooks braved the New York heat and humidity for the premiere of the second season of Peacemaker on Wednesday. The new season follows Cena's vigilante superhero character Peacemaker as he finds his sense of purpose this time while struggling to reconcile his past. Cena showed up on the premiere in a costume. Take a look.
There's a huge fan base beyond the DCU. I could just wear a regular suit, but this is the one time I can dress up in a very cool uniform. So yeah, that was the thing to do.
Trump has named country music star George Strait, Rocky actor and writer Sylvester Stallone, singers Gloria Gaynor, the rock band Kiss, and actor-singer Michael Crawford among the first batch of Kennedy Center honor nominees under his leadership at the center's chairman, and said he'll host the awards program. The president announced that he would be hosting the ceremony later this year and that he had been deeply involved with the selection process as well. He also suggested he might just choose himself for a future award in typical Trump style. Now, Trump also avoided the Kennedy Center Honors Awards program during his first term after artists said they would not attend out of protest.
Something that will go rapidly, relatively inexpensively.
And Taylor Swift's latest era is almost upon us. That's right, it's dawning upon us. The superstar isn't just releasing her 12th album in October. She's also appeared Wednesday on New Heights for the first time to discuss it at length. As anticipation builds, fans are celebrating her music in a big way, with some even drawing bold comparisons between Swift's lyrics and the works of Shakespeare. Listen in.
I like to say that I like to look at Taylor Swift's music like it's literature, because I am fully on the bandwagon that I believe that Taylor Swift will go down in history far beyond our lifetimes and be studied in the same way that Shakespeare is today. And I really do believe that.
And with that, it's a wrap on this Thursday edition of the World Report. Take care and have a wonderful day.